I feel useful when I'm here. Not like at my home where me sitting serves no purpose, just a decoration. I think my husband likes it that way. He is always working without uttering a word. I wonder sometimes how he does it. I'm not meant to be in silence. My parental home is filled with the sound of my siblings.
Mrs. Ruskin, please turn your head towards me. A bit more. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, him. Malay. I met him 2 years ago in 1851.
I sent a letter expressing my gratitude to John Ruskin for standing with the Brotherhood in the papers. What John Ruskin says in the Times is true and shall be taken as fact. So I invited him to my studio to thank him for what he did. Mr. Ruskin, my pleasure.
The pleasure is mine. I came as soon as I received your note.
I hope you didn't find my invitation inappropriate. I only wish to thank you for what you did.
On the contrary, I've been following your artistry for quite a while now. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, or PRB for short, has been known to the artistic world since 1848, when students of the Royal Academy decided that what they've been taught is the cause of deterioration for British art. The students were namely Dante Gabriel Rossetti, William Holman Hunt, and John Everett Millais. I've been following Millay's work since he submitted his painting, Christ in the House of His Parents, to the exhibition. How that could be called a primitive piece of work is beyond me. You see, the Pre-Raphaelite name comes...
I think that's quite enough, darling. They need to know every detail.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Then I must speak something of Ruskin as well. Not only a writer, a critic, and a highly literary fellow, but an artist himself. John Ruskin, standing with the Brotherhood, meant that our art would be accepted within Academy walls. More often than not.
I've been following your artistry for quite a while now.
You have? What do you think of my most recent work?
Well, I was planning to ask you whether I can claim ownership of the Return of the Dove. I've never seen anything quite like it.
The olive branch. In the girl's hand, however, it's inaccurate.
Well, yes. The olive branch is botanically inaccurate. But nothing can be done about it now.
Well, what do you suggest then for future works?
I say go to nature in all singleness of heart. Reject nothing, select nothing, and scorn nothing. Be truth to nature.
I believe this is a piece of advice that every member of the Brotherhood should follow closely.
Well, I'm glad my words found a listening ear. Now, I would still be interested in the Return of the Dove.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid it's spoken for.
Maybe the next time the opportunity presents itself.
Millais trod swiftly and straightly the path of popular approbation and academic honours, culminating in the highest dignity the Academy had to bestow. Of course, his picture was already sold. From now on, he was on his way to unbreakable popularity.
He was gifted with a sense of crystalline clearness, to which nature made a brilliant and perpetual appeal. He had a hand that, even in childhood, was singularly skillful to record the impressions of the eye, and his hand had been severely trained too, first by pre-described academic methods, and later by elaborate labour of his pre-Raphaelite work, until it set down facts almost within the facility with which the eye perceived them.
I believe I haven't been introduced to the lady yet.
Mr. Millais, this is my wife, Effie Ruskin.
The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Ruskin.
Well, we're all to go now. But I'm very glad I can come and see you, Mr. Millais.
Thank you, Mr. Ruskin. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Two exceedingly young men of stubborn instincts calling themselves Pre-Raphaelites.
This is how I met him in 1851. Talented from an early age, now the leader of a brand new art movement, however controversial it may be to the public. My husband invited him to come to Switzerland with us.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I can't go. I have a previously arranged trip with my good friend of mine, Holman Hunt. We are to paint nature in its every detail, just as you suggested.
Would you send letters of your progress?
May I have a question? Just out of simple curiosity.
Of course.
How did you and Mrs. Ruskin meet?
We met on my way to school in 1840. Our families were long acquainted with each other. I was 12 and he was 21. To assure me of his love, he wrote a whole novel for me titled King of the Golden River.
She came to my parental home at Denmark Hill just before turning 19. She was happy to spend time in London, away from Scotland for a bit. As you see, that's where she's from. We used to call her Femi back then. She flowered into Effie after.
I was completely unaware of his strong feelings towards me, until one day I read a poem titled to me in the papers.
You wrote her a poem and published it for her to see.
Thorn and meadow grass, sweet sister, twine them as I may. Deemest thou a darksome Harland for thy natal day? Thou thyself fairer, sister, than all flowers of May. Had I brought thee buds and blossoms, shamed were I and they. Think not of their grace, sweet sister, nor their colours gay, since their utmost glory, sister, is to pass away.
There is no better way to profess love than poetry.
Strangely, I believe that poetry is the one that kills love.
I formerly believed him incapable of any great exertion of bodily strength or mental power not to sing about love. But then he said such things.
My dearest Euphemia, what a pretty name you have. I'd like to write it in full. Sometimes it puts me in the mind of old times. Do you recollect the first time I ever called you Effie? What a luxury it is to call you by that name.
Really, John, I love you, besides the jealous parts of you. Not because of the sweet poems, letters, or gifts. I really do love you.
I love Miss Grey very much, and therefore cannot tell what to think of her. But only this I know, that in all respects she is unfit to be my wife, unless she also loves me exceedingly.
And I did. We were married on the 10th of April, 1848.
What about the honeymoon?
We went to the Highlands. Europe was out of the question. It was the year of the revolutions.
Wow. It must have been beautiful.
It was.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Ruskin, but I'm afraid I must go. Have the best time in Switzerland, and best of luck for the book that you're working on right now.
Thank you. Enjoy the countryside.
I will.
After Switzerland, we went to Venice. You ought to come out with me, John. Every night I go out alone.
I'm sure the Austrian officers would be glad to accompany you. One of them even died for your hand, I hear.
That was an accident. Besides, it's only rumoured that he died. From what I heard, he was only slashed across the chest. What a funny thing for him to do for me to notice him.
I'd hardly call a duel for your hand an accident.
Why come to Venice if you have no desire to experience the people?
I experience the architecture, the facades, the arches, everything that is glorious, Gothic, and forever here. And it is my mission to document these monuments so that they can be preserved. And that is of greater importance than social gatherings. You may go now. I said, you may go now.
Come to bed with me.
You all right? Seem to be talking nonsense.
You are blood of my blood and bone of my
Are you
bone.
feeling sick?
I give you my body that we two should be one. Surely it isn't hard to take what I've already given you, John. Especially if we are the same flesh and blood, husband and wife.
I do not wish to discuss this topic with you.
We've been married for 4 years and you've not
I
once.
already told you I do not wish to discuss this
It is
topic.
your marital duty
A
to...
woman goes quite against nature when she demands it. And as I said, I have important work to do right now. Very disappointed in you for bringing this up.
Venice was supposed to bring us closer together, but it only pushed us further apart.
What's the title?
The Stones of Venice.
Ah, a second volume then.
Yes, I'm still working on it. My editor has yet to see it. I need to fix my mistakes before publication.
I heard you moved addresses.
Yes, we did.
It must be nice in a new house. Just you and the lady. The perfect place for you to dedicate time to your work.
I work at my parental home at Denmark Hill. I stay there most of the time. Only Effie's in the new house.
Oh, all alone?
She doesn't seem to mind. Anyways, what do you think about the book?
Well, it's constructed well, and remarkable sketches too. But I'm afraid I can't agree with everything written.
Well, I spent a lot of time observing the architecture.
Must have been the adventure. I'm sure the social life was exciting as well.
Only my wife knows about that.
You're not the type to go out, Mr. Ruskin.
I am not. I had to focus on my work. But now that I see an end to my studies, I have more time to spend. Would you walk with me to the academy, Mr. Millay?
Well, of course.
Is this one yours?
It is. Its title is The Woodman's Daughter. Look. Can you see that feather there? It took me weeks to perfect. I had to scrape it all off and do it all over again. But I promised myself I would get it right. So I did.
It's a very lifelike render of the children. And the strawberries too.
And sometimes, in a sullen tone, he'd offered fruit, and she received them always with an air, so unreserved and free, that shamefaced distance soon became familiarity.
Inspired by the poetics, nonetheless.
Indeed. You know, I had to pay 5 and 6 pence just to get them to sit for me. Me and my friend Charles Collins ate the strawberries afterwards with a thankful heart.
Well, it's a charming fruit, and that price must be a vast sum for you.
Indeed. 5 and 6 pence is quite the vast sum in my profession.
Mr. Millay, there is actually a specific reason that I called you here.
And what would that be?
I would like to commission you for a portrait. Well, my father wants to be precise. But the subject of the portrait would be me.
A portrait?
The payment will be £350 for it. I'm planning to go to Scotland for the location. Would you accept?
How could I refuse?
I want this painting to be an example of British landscape art. The mountains provide a great opportunity for that.
You said Mrs. Ruskin was from Scotland, if I remember correctly.
Yes, she is.
Is she to come with us?
Yes. The mountain air will do good for her health.
Oh, well, I hope she's not sick.
No, I hope not either. I'm very glad we can make an agreement, Mr. Millay. I shall send you the details of our travels soon.
Mr. Ruskin!
Yes?
May I have a question?
Of course.
Would you allow Mrs. Ruskin to come and sit for me? She would be the perfect model for one of my paintings.
If she wishes to do it, send her a note and ask.
I'll be sure to do that. Thank you, Mr. Ruskin.
His room looked as though it had been given over the tender care of a dozen monkeys in his absence. Am I holding my head in the right position, Mr. Millay?
Imagine that you are a Highlander wife, relieved to save her Jacobite husband from the English. You are handing the order of the release to the jailer. I want to see a bit of quiet determination. A bit more. Perfect. Thank you. Stay like that.
He found my profile, like everyone else who had tried it, immensely difficult, and he was greatly delighted last night when he said he'd quite got it. Since then, he's been working on the fine details. He paints so slowly and finely that no man working as he does can paint faster. When can I see it?
See what?
The picture, of course.
Ah, I'm afraid I can't show it for a while. I can get the subjects to sit for me in this infant model. God, I can almost murder. But it's the dog I feel for, because he's not really expected to understand. A strong man comes with it and bends him to my will, and all the while it looks as calm as a suffering martyr. I do more from one creature in a day than the other in a week.
You don't like children, Mr. Millay?
Well, I generally like them, except this one. Especially when he takes my brushes and then I suggest punishment and the mother reminds me that I'm no father and then breaks out into such reproofs as, "Oh, my poor baby! My cherub, my sweetheart!"
I understand where the poor child comes from. It's tiring to sit without movement all day.
Perhaps you can tell me about Venice. One of the joys of not painting an infant model is the actual conversations that can be held. We don't have to sit in silence all day.
Venice is beautiful. There is lots to see there. The people are kind. The weather is nice too. It's warmer than here.
Must have been quite the adventure, I imagine.
Not so much as my first visit. Oh, this is my second time.
Then returning home was a relief.
Hardly. How do you think she got it?
Pardon?
How did the wife and the painting get the order of release?
Well, I suppose there's a few ways around it.
Do you suppose she had to do something unthinkable? Like betraying her husband?
Perhaps. It depends on what the viewer thinks, I suppose.
Don't believe me, this woman shares a similar feeling.
Is that so?
Can I speak freely? I'm willing to share a secret, but only if it stays within these walls.
Keep a secret, Mrs. Ruskin.
We moved to a new house at Herne Hill, provided by my in-laws. They thought our old house was too big for us, too much space unused. John does not want to host parties, and frankly, I would fear to bring anyone into our home. No joyous parties can be held there.
I thought a new house would be a joyous occasion.
It is a small, ugly red brick house, partly furnished in the worst possible taste, with the most glaring vulgarity.
Sounds just like the metropolis to me, just that filth that ruins everything.
On top of this, the Ruskins are bothering me now because I won't visit without John or go to balls alone. I always want to please them.
They seem like a hard family to please.
What am I to do? If I do go, then I must spend money on carriage and hires and go alone. If I don't, it is my own fault if I have no society. That I may go as I like and do as I choose, as long as I don't degrade John by bringing him into society.
What is it with Mr. Ruskin and society?
He is such an antisocial man, I can hardly do anything about it. I do not believe I love him, Mr. Maloney.
Please. Call me John.
Must I? I do not want you to share a name with my husband in my mind.
Then, Everett. I'm not used to being called my middle name, but I'll get used to it.
In that case, Everett, please call me Effie. Every friend of mine calls me that.
Does that mean we are to be friends from now on?
I believe so. We've been spending days together, the three of us, you, me, and the painting. I hardly spend this much time with my other acquaintances.
So, you don't love Mr. Ruskin?
I don't think so. So John and I should love each other. Wasn't it good?
Well, how come your family's got to meet?
Their parents sold us our parental home. It's an old house. They wanted to get rid of it because his grandfather committed suicide in the very room I was born in years later. He shot himself. I feel like that hangs above me like a bad omen.
Yes, that is indeed a strained connection. I'm surprised you became his wife after all this.
I have an even more terrible secret, Everett.
You feel like you have to tell me anything.
I don't know if I can say anything. But I cannot keep this any longer only to myself. I must tell someone.
Now you are positively scaring me.
Mr. Ruskin is not my husband.
Well, how could that be? You have his name.
He is not my husband by law. Our marriage. He took one look at me on our wedding night, Everett, then he sent me away.
Are you sure to entrust me with such a secret before you say more?
There is nothing more to say. I wanted you to know before you came with us to Scotland. But I can see you finished your work for today. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. I must go. I'm expected to dine in Denmark Hill later tonight. I wouldn't want to be late.
You keep me! Effie. And your secret's safe with me.
Thank you. Good night.
picture. It created a great sensation and was the first ever hung on the walls of the Academy. It was said that as a piece of realistic painting, it challenged anything else in the world. The lady in the picture has the perfect likeness of Effie in the year 1853, except I changed her hair colour to black to better contrast the child. It is titled The Order of Release.
How are the preparations for our journey to Scotland?
The travel and accommodation are taken care of.
Go on.
I booked a room at the New Treasure Hotel for Mr. Millay and his brother William. He wanted to join and I couldn't think of a reason why not. For us, I found a small cottage at Brigaturk, and that was it, next to the lake. Said to be very scenic.
Thank you, Effie. Hopefully the mountain air will solve your issues, too. How have you been feeling?
Better. Have you seen that Millay finished his picture? The one he used me as a model for?
Yes, though it was a struggle to even get close. The crowd in front of it, I simply couldn't see the details.
He changed my hair
I didn't even notice.
on the painting. It's dark. I wish I could change it in reality somehow too.
It wouldn't look good. And it's also useless to fantasize about something that we definitely can't have.
Dark hair would contrast better with a pink dress.
We don't even have a pink dress.
I would want to have one. Eventually. Pink is my very favourite
I
colour.
think you have enough dresses already. I might get you a pink dress when you return from Scotland. We'll discuss it later.
John,
Yes?
do you love me?
What kind of question is this?
Do you love me like you did before our wedding?
Why?
Why? Can't answer? Or you just don't want to?
Effie!
How is it fair that a husband leaves his wife with a single man to spend all of her days? What have I done wrong?
Effie! My dearest Euphemia, I have important work to do right now. We'll discuss it later.
Right.
Thank you for your understanding. Let's focus on our upcoming journey now. The ride will be particularly hard. Mr. Millay, thank you. How did you find the hotel? Did you settle in well?
Yes, me and my brother too.
I heard you went to the morning service.
I did. It was somewhat comical, actually. The priest was a very little bow-legged man with the wheeziest of voices, and he sang the first line of the paraphrase alone while his little shaggy terrier joined in with a piteous howl.
And the canvas?
The canvas.
You said you needed to acquire a canvas for my portrait.
Yes, well, it's still en route from London. It's a while until it gets here.
Leaves us more time to scout the area then.
Very true, Mr. Ruskin.
Now, if you must excuse me, Everett, I need to see to our other belongings. I'm afraid if I leave them out any longer, I might get caught up in the rain.
I gather you like Scotland, Everett?
Well, I always did. After church, me and my brother, we would take a walk down to the crag, and he would stand in a torrent of water which must have punished his back severely. It's quite impossible to walk around these mountain paths without undressing and jumping in. What a country this is to grow up in. Are your family living close by? An estate here must be beautiful.
My family home is located in Perth.
Thank you again, Everett, for your help with our luggage. Let's meet again tomorrow morning, and we can find the perfect background for my portrait.
Very well, Mr. Ruskin. Mrs. Ruskin, have a pleasant evening.
Millay is a very interesting study, isn't he?
How so?
Well, I must admit, I don't quite know how to manage him. His mind is so terribly active, so full of invention that he can hardly stay quiet a minute without sketching ideas or reminiscences. And he keeps himself awake all night planning pictures.
I suppose it's what a healthy artistic mind does.
You don't see me doing that, do you?
No, I don't.
Then neither should he be like this. He's still a young man, though. It's time to make an impression on him. The next day, Malay fixed on his place a wonderful piece of worn rock with foaming water and weeds and moss, and a noble overhanging bank of a dark crag. And I am to be standing looking quietly over the stream. He's very happy at the idea of doing this, and we shall have the two most wonderful torrents in the world, Turner's St. Gothard and Malay Glenflint. Do you know, Everett, why we came here?
I believe your wife's health was one of the reasons. The doctors recommended clean mountain air for her.
Besides that, we came here because, to me, mountains are the beginning and the end of all natural scenery. The chief thing is to get mountains. A mountain drawing is always worth just 3 times of any other subject. They're nature and art in one.
Of course, Mr. Ruskin.
Effie, read on, please. Malay would get quite bored otherwise, and I can't bear to listen to the sound of water so extensively.
Well, only if she wishes to. I'm quite content with working as I am.
For my sake, then, Effie.
The mind is created quick to love, is responsive to everything that is pleasing, soon as by pleasure it is awakened into activity. Your apprehensive faculty draws an impression from a real object and unfolds it within you, so that it makes the wind turn thereto, and, if being turned, it inclines towards it. That inclination is love. That is nature, through which pleasure is bound anew within you.
Dante is always an excellent choice, wouldn't you agree?
I'm afraid I can't do this any longer. My fingers refuse to bend. And I hear a great storm coming in.
Very well. We'll continue this tomorrow.
I don't know how you bear it.
What would I say? I'm only his wife.
Question him about it, or write to your father.
My father is a poor man. He has enough problems of his own. I didn't wish to trouble my parents. It is better for them to think I live a good life.
Effie, do you think this is a good life?
It is a married life. There are still more less fortunate than I.
Effie.
It would be improper for you to say anything. Not here. This is not the confined space of your studio. It would ruin both of us.
I can't sit here and watch this torture that you've gone through so extensively. Since the first day you came to my studio. I can't stop it. How can I stop it? What am I supposed to do?
Come inside, Everett. The rain will soak us both. It must be a wonderful feeling to know that your hands can create such beautiful things that only a few can.
I don't think I know what you mean.
Your talent of painting. Plus, he is so remarkably handsome regardless. One may wonder how he is sought after.
Many in my generation can paint just as well as I can. Hunt, Rossetti...
That is not entirely true. No one was accepted into the academy as young as you were, and no one can paint like you do exactly.
I struggle to see the great feeling in it still. The life of a painter is often long periods of struggle and short periods of enjoyment in this turbulent and critical society we live in.
But it's an escape regardless, isn't it? You paint worlds in such a way I feel like I can step right into them.
Yes, I suppose painting does quiet down my mind.
I suppose I would like to have such talent.
Maybe I can teach you.
Really?
Yes. When we come back from the crag, first by sketches and then watercolours. That's how my mother began to teach me.
Your mother taught you art?
Well, initially. And then others. But she set me on this way of life. I owe everything to my mother.
Thank you, Everett.
I asked Everett to help me prepare for the lectures that I'm about to take to Edinburgh. I'm to host them about architecture and my latest book, The Stones of Venice, which was a moderate success. Give it a read when the time allows it. Due to my artistic talents, I was able to make some of the illustrations for it, but I'd much rather focus on the writing. So I left Everett to the artwork. I'm sure he's perfectly happy with helping me.
All this day, I've been busy making drawings for lectures. I think I was intended for a master mason.
Very good work, Everett. Your help is greatly appreciated.
It's the least I can do, Mr. Ruskin.
It must be tiring, all of these technical sketches. They don't have much nature about them.
I can hardly complain. Your father is paying me handsomely for this, after all.
I hope he'll be satisfied with the portrait.
Well, perhaps you would like to see Mrs. Ruskin's still life studies too. She has been practicing diligently while we worked on the lectures.
Ah, a flower. The beauty of nature indeed.
Isn't she an amazing artist and model all at the same time?
Model.
You agree, don't you?
I'm a poor judge of women. You must forgive me. Yes. Keep pressing, dear. I must leave now, Everett. Would you be so kind to stay with Effie for a while, if she's not bothersome? I know your brother's at the hotel, so you needn't stay long.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Everett and his brother found the way that John was treating me strange, antisocial and loveless, but there was nothing much they could do other than comforting me with words.
Don't even listen to him, Countess.
What did you call me?
Countess? Oh, my brother came up with it. He believes your spirit is much like a countess's. Well, in all the good ways, of course.
I like it. Will you be going out to paint tomorrow, Everett?
Well, I'd like to, but I think I'd have much better chances against these elements wearing a kilt, and I'm not too keen to do that. The furthest I will go is to fish by the lake.
In that case, good night.
You too, Countess.
Against all the odds, Everett felt the need to write a letter to my parents after he had finished his work in Scotland and returned home to London. I will be forever grateful to him for doing this.
Believe me, I will do everything you can desire of me. Although you know of John Ruskin's odd propensity for roaming away by himself from all human creatures and their habitations, yet you cannot be aware of the abstracted way in which he neglects his wife. It is utterly impossible for a friend to sojourn with him for any length of time without being absolutely compelled by common courtesy to attend to her. When I spoke to him about his extraordinary differences with her attractions, he only apathetically laughed and said,
I thought all women ought to depend upon themselves for engrossing employment.
There was something so revolting to me about this sickly treatment of her that I never again ventured to speak on the subject, as I could not depend on keeping my temper. He is an undeniable giant as an author, but a poor, weak creature in everything else, bland, heartless, and unworthy. You will avert many disagreeable casualties and greatly increase your daughter's comfort by permitting always one or her other sisters to be with her.
Would you like to accompany me to the station? My sister's train arrives within the hour.
I have work to do, and it's better if you go pick her up. I'm just a stranger to her after all.
She has been introduced to you on our last visit to Perth. Will you look at me?
I'm working.
You can't even look at your own wife. Or should I say, falsely called wife?
Don't push me. You don't think I see what you're doing? I demand more respect from you from now on.
Then earn it. Earn it through love. Touch me just once and you'll see that I'm not the vile creature that you think I am.
I never said you were vile.
I notice when a man's eyes darken with disgust. I learnt to notice it living under the same roof as you.
What was her name again? Your sister?
Sophie.
Sophie. Yes. Well, my schedule doesn't allow it. Hire a carriage. I'm sure she doesn't require my company to be happy to see you.
He has told my sister that he watches everything that I do or say. I must tell you these things just to show you how impossible any behaviour is to help things straight for our sakes, when the Ruskins' object is to get rid of me and to have John altogether with them again. They wish to discuss me to such a degree as to force me, or else get me, into some scrape. I just wish that something could be done. John has been trying to get to me by writing taunts to Malay. He accepted that letter of St. Agnes, and then he said...
Did you still write to him? And where is the harm if he sends you drawings?
I said the drawing was as much his as mine, and to send it back if he liked.
I never doubted that taking me to the Highlands was some deep-laid scheme to get me and Effie together in a compromising way, which doubtless John Ruskin imagined could not fail. But exchanging letters was out of the question, to not already fuel the gossip going its rounds of London.
I suppose by autumn something will be done by the Ruskins. Until then, I will just go on as I am doing. I just wish the painting of John was done. I send more and more letters to my mother.
Ah, Everett, I received your letter about the portrait.
Ah, yes. The portrait is finished. It will be ready to be transported to your residence.
Excellent work, though I'm not particularly fond of the yellow on it. Almost hurts my eyes.
I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about it now. The leaves are long dry. I'd ruin everything else.
We'll have to do that.
I have a question.
Yes?
What do you think of the drawing of St. Agnes I sent to Effie?
Should I feel any way about it? You sent it to her, after all.
I just wanted to know whether I offended you with it or not.
Of course not. It was only a gift. And who am I to deny that of my wife?
I'm glad we can agree on that.
Yes, well, thank you again, Everett. I shall leave you to your other works. Let me know when you'll be sending the portrait over.
If I let Sophie go to Everett, she will tell him everything, and then he'll be put into a passion. I cannot shut my eyes to the Ruskins' wish to draw me into scrapes. I cannot do wrong, the good may come from it. I hope and I think that I'm doing the right thing, and I feel better for it. I went and consulted a dear friend of mine, Lady Eastlake, and she's given me the advice that I should remove myself from my situation immediately. She is right, of course. These trials have gone on for 7 years nearly. They might have gone on for 27. Only it is best they should come to an end.
Effie left London with her mother afterwards, under the pretense of going to visit her family home. And after a few days at Perth, she was able to write this.
My dearest father, I feel very thankful that I have your approval in the course of conduct I have been endeavouring to pursue. I have lately, and as of my last visit, shown you how very unhappy I was. You are aware that since 1848, this last year, I have never made any formal complaint to you. There are many reasons for my silence, and the principal being, of course, was my great love for you and my dear mother, fearing to trouble you when you were in great troubles yourself. To come to the present moment, when, even now I was unwilling to tell you all, fearing your anger towards John Ruskin, who have ill-treated and abused me, and his parents who have so seconded him. They have been most guilty in the education we have given him, and ought not to have treated me as they have done. I have duly considered the steps I am about to take in telling you all. Feeling very ill last week, and in the greatest perplexity, I went and consulted Lady Eastlake. I took her to make the necessary inquiries of how the English law would treat a case such as mine. I have therefore simply to tell you that I do not think that I am John Ruskin's wife at all, and I entreat you to assist me to get you released from the unnatural position in which I stand to him, to go back to the day of my marriage, the 10th of April. John talked about no intentions of making me his wife. He alleged various reasons: hatred to children, religious motives, a desire to preserve my beauty. And finally, this last year he told me the true reason. And this, to me, is as villainous as the rest. That he imagined women were quite different to what he saw I was. And that the reason he did not make me his wife was because he was disgusted with my persons that first evening, the 10th of April.
It may be thought strange that I could abstain from a woman who to most people was so attractive, though her face was beautiful. Her person was not formed to excite passion. On the contrary, there were certain circumstances in which her person completely checked it.
He said I professed quite a dislike to him, that it would be sinful to enter into such a connection, as if I was not wicked, I was at least insane, and the responsibility that I might have children was too great, as I was quite unfit to bring them up.
It was said that on the wedding night, he was frightened by the sight of his wife's pubic hair, or more probably he was perturbed by menstrual blood.
If he had been kind, I might have lived and died in my maiden state. I don't think. Poor creature. He knows anything about human creatures. But he is so gifted otherwise, and so cold at the same time, that he never thinks of people's feelings, and yet with his eloquence will always command admiration. I cannot bear his presence.
As the train sped northwards, the burden of the secret sorrow that had blighted Effie's young life gradually began to lift, and after a few days in Perth, she was able to write this.
I said goodbye to her at the station in the hopes that we would see each other again in a couple of months. Days later, she sent back her housekeeping book, keys and wedding ring, and a citation to court.
I should state to you the reason of sending you my keys and house book, next to which you will find enclosed my marriage ring, which I return by this means. I hear our affairs are perfectly known to London society, and nothing more will be said, since the fact of our marriage having been consummated was known to so many. My parents have entirely approved of the steps I have taken, and my mother accompanies me to Scotland.
My father was furious when I let him know. He threatened to slice up the Malay portrait with a knife in his anger. I managed to save it by taking it down from above the fireplace and hiding it far away from him. Ah, Everett. I'm so glad that I could run into you here. We just had the painting relocated to a better place for it. I'm much happier now than I was when I saw it in your room. As for the wonderment of the painting, there can of course be no question, but I'm gradually getting more reconciled to the figures in a way. Except for the overlarge spark in the right eye, as if having the effect of making me lightly squint. My mother and father say the likeliness is perfect, but that I look bored, pale, and a little too yellow. Of course, after standing on one leg for 3 hours, there is no wonder I look rather uninterested in the world in general. Please, tell me your proper address, as I may often want to write you now. I need not, I hope, to tell you how grateful I am for you finishing the portrait as you did.
My address is Langham Chambers, Langham Place. But I scarcely see how you conceive it possible for me to continue on such terms of intimacy with you. I concluded that I would never do it again.
And from your tenor, I can only conclude that you believe I had, as alleged by various base or ignorant persons, some unfriendly purpose when I invited you to journey with me to the Highlands, or that you have been long concerned with the machinations made against my character and fortune. In either case, I have to thank you, Everett, for a last lesson, though I have had to learn many another bitter ones.
I'm quite a different creature. In the first place, my mind is so completely relieved of all anxiety that I am able to return to any pursuits necessary up here with great delight. I look upon myself as much to be envied in getting away, instead of living my life as a worthless wretch to drag on with, as many women have to do for the rest of her days. Soon I had to return to the dark streets of London.
Come in, Mrs. Ruskin.
There is nothing to be afraid of.
Somehow I had to prove to the court that he never touched me, that I was still intact and not his wife under law. I was sent to doctors to be looked over, their cold hands on my skin without my permission. As if my words were not enough, they had to take my dignity as well.
Very curious. This is the first case like this I've ever seen.
All signs of virginity seem to be there.
I'm sorry if it caused you any discomfort.
As well as this, now I had to endure the gossip. As much as I was loved and respected, I was never so much as now by all whom my sad tale had reached, and who knew not only what I had suffered, but how I had borne it. I was called a heroine of the best kind. The news upturned London society. Gentlemen retired into corners to talk it over, some expressing grief beyond utterance. Then the trial came. Therefore we, John Haggard, Doctor of Law of the Commissary, aforementioned, having heard counsel on behalf of said Euphemia Chalmers Gray, falsely called Ruskin, do pronounce, decree, and declare.
Decree of nullity.
And then it was over. Let me be the first amongst your congratulating friends, as no one has been so thankful of this blessed termination, nor so keenly interested in these trials. I'm sure you'll find it hard to return to your old signature, Miss Effie Gray.
I will, Everett. But it'll be a joy to get used to it again.
Will you see me again before leaving London?
I don't know if I can. It hurts too much still.
But you do know of how my
I'm
heart...
not fit to marry anybody. Believe me, and could not do so without much time for thought and deliberation. Plus, you know it would never do to be wretched twice.
Yes, I understand.
I might call upon you when I feel ready, but I cannot say how soon that will be.
At least you know.
Yes, I do.
Then I wish you the very best of luck, Miss Effie Gray.
You're not really here, are you?
Not entirely. But I'm still with you in your mind.
You can't be. It took me so long to get away.
If you want me to leave, then you must do something about it.
What more can I do? How can I forget the last 7 years of my life?
I'm not the one with the answers. You are.
I will need time.
He knows that.
I loved you in the beginning, you know? And I think you loved me too. Where did it all go wrong? John?
Yes, my dearest Effie.
I need you to leave. I need to forget your voice, the way you looked at me. I need to forget it so I can move on.
As you wish, my dearest.
She only said, "My life is dreary. I cometh not," she said. She said, "I am aweary, aweary. I would that I were dead."
It's been a year, and I am to be a married man. But what do you think of this? You must not have been knocked down by this sudden announcement.
He came to visit me in Perth when I was ready. Only for a few days, but it was enough to arrange matters to this end.
I fear that your last life will never cease to live in your memory. I have so little faith in my own ability to blot out this ruin of your first life, but I can't see how this marriage could have been otherwise. Perhaps I should allow myself to go placidly with the stream, instead of worrying about the probable termination.
No such thing as a termination will happen. I wish for the wedding to be small. I only wish my immediate relations, and yours if they wish to come. Neither of us are strong of the earth. I am dreadfully nervous. You are worse, but I think this is temporary for us both. I really am far stronger than I have been in years.
Then everything is prepared. There's no mistake about it.
We are to be married in the drawing room of my parental home by Scottish tradition.
The room is full of flowers.
It's beautiful.
You are blood of my blood and bone of my bone. I give you my body that we two shall be one, and I give you my spirit till your life shall be done.
You cannot possess me, for I belong to myself. But as long as we both wish it, I give you that which is mine to give. You cannot command me, for I am a free person, but I shall serve you in all those ways you require, and the honeycomb will taste sweeter coming from my hand.
Just a line to say that I am the distinguished owner of a little gentleman. He is of extremely handsome production, the nurses say, but what nurse does not say the same thing? He has blue eyes and a little downy brown atop his head. We named him Everett.
Thank you so much for coming to see Kraken Theatre's first production, The Decree of Nullity. Thank you for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure working on this. Emma, please stand up. You wrote this beautiful story, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys, and it's been amazing to show it again. I mentioned Kraken Theatre. We are all a part of a new up-and-coming theatre company. We're all students. This was our first proper production. We have one tomorrow called Space Eater at the Lakeside Theatre at the University of Essex. Please come and see that. It is bonkers. But yeah, keep an eye out, Kraken Theatre. We're not done. We are coming hard. So thank you.